Kelly, and today I will be showing you probably the best method of getting vintage Mac software from the internet and onto your old Mac. Now, we've already gone over this topic before in a previous video where I demonstrated the Macintosh, or the Big Mess of Wires floppy emu device, and it wasn't really the most reliable thing in the world, so I've been searching a bit more, and I think I found probably the best method ever to getting vintage software on your Mac. So basically, for the longest time, or since the beginning of vintage Mac collecting, people have had the issue of not having software for their old computers, and basically what would happen is you'd buy an old computer and you'd want like maybe some old games or specific programs, and they'd either be really expensive to buy on the internet, or they'd just be really they'd just be really hard to find or something like that, like as like a hard copy. And ever since the internet came out, people have been uploading what is known as abandonware to the modern computers and the internet, with their modern computers onto the internet, so that people can download them. However, people have had troubles with getting that stuff onto the old Mac. So that is exactly what I'm going to be showing you how to do today. How to get software from this over to this. And it has to be vintage software, otherwise it will not work. But otherwise, let's get started. Alright guys, so now that we are on a computer, it is time to go to one of these two abandonware websites that I know of that have vintage Mac software. So basically, you can't exactly get software on a vintage Mac if you don't know what you're looking for. So that's why I will be supplying two really useful websites in the link down below. Now, I recommend both these websites. One of the websites is this, which is Macintosh Garden. Totally recommend this one. It is very easy to download from, and there's lots of software. The other one is the Macintosh repository, and unfortunately it doesn't seem to be working on this computer because this computer is a piece of crap. But when it does work, it's a really nice website, and I really like the look and feel of it, so I definitely recommend that if you want to use that website as well. Both the links for these websites are in the description below, but we're going to be doing Macintosh Garden because it's the only one that wants to work with this computer. So yeah, basically, you got to choose out a game, and you have to make sure that game works with your old computer. So basically, I've chosen Crystal Quest because I wanted to, because I already have this game on the computer, but I wanted to, just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be showing you how to do it. So basically, this is how it works. So on the side here, you have some download links. This link here, the blue one, is for emulation, so you do not want to download this unless you're doing it with an emulator, which I'm not going to be showing you how to do because it's a bit complicating and I don't have an emulator. And then here you can purchase the game from its original publisher, and I've actually never seen this before in my life, so I guess you can download a sealed copy of Crystal Quest on a floppy disk from the original publishers, which is pretty interesting. Anyway, so basically, you have to make sure it's for the right architecture, and for the vintage toaster Macs, the one that I'm using, like the Mac Classic, is a 68K, has a Motorola 68K processor, so that's why it's 68K architecture. It's a lot easier to like distinguish what architecture goes to what on the Macintosh repo site, but yeah, so there are comments here and stuff like that, and basically what we're gonna do is we're gonna download one of these links, and it's best, and I'm not exactly sure which link to download. Usually on the bottom it says here. Let's see, so blah 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 blah. Usually it says what link you should choose, so I think so. It usually now there are three different links: www, FTP, and mirror, but they're all pretty much the same exact thing, so you can download whichever one you want. So yeah, basically what we're gonna do, first thing I'm actually gonna do is I'm actually gonna plug in this USB thumb drive, because that's what we're gonna be wanting to do anyway, so yeah, I just plugged in the USB thumb drive, and we're gonna choose one of these by random. Let's choose the first one. Well, actually, 7 megabytes, that seems like a lot. So I'm gonna choose the second largest one, which is this one. So yeah, basically what we're gonna want to do now is we're gonna want to download this, the download thingy. So now what we're gonna want to do is we're gonna want to go to our downloads folder, which is I think my downloads folder is over down here. So I'm gonna open that in Finder. And then we're gonna sort it by range by date created, and there it is. So basically, I think you're gonna want to unzip this first. Well, actually, I think you should just keep it in the zip file, and then what you're gonna want to do is you're gonna want to drag it into your USB drive, and then eject the USB drive, and it's that simple. So now that we're done with the modern computer, you're gonna want to eject the drive, if it does, and then we're gonna move on to the next step. All right, guys. So now you've probably put your Mac software on your thumb drive, and now you're gonna have to somehow transfer to the computer. So this is how it works. So basically, you have this thumb drive, and I recommend an older thumb drive, sort of like this one. This one is an M-Tech 32 gigabyte thumb drive, which is well enough, which is like enough to hold like 1,000 different software titles on here, because 32 gigabytes is a lot for vintage software. And basically, you're gonna realize why it needs to be an older one in just a second. But basically, what we need to do now is we need a bridge computer, because theoretically you can't just take software from this to this, because the software from here needs to be unstuffed and then put onto this one, and this one cannot unstuff it, and this one does not have USB, as you can probably imagine. That is going to be a bit tricky. So we need a bridge computer that can unstuff these files and put it on a floppy disk and put it on the vintage Mac, and that's where the next step comes in. And the bridge computer that we shall be using for this project is going to be this iMac G3. Now, one of the reasons why I chose the iMac G3 was for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's old enough to run Mac OS 9, which is modern enough to unstuff these files that we have, and it is old, and so basically that's why it's good that it's old enough to run Mac OS 9, because if it ran Mac OS 10, which is possible with this machine, however, if it was running Mac OS 10, it would kind of defeat the purpose of it being able to unstuff the files, because macOS 10 can do that, but you do also have to convert it onto a floppy drive and send it to the other computer. And I'm going to be showing you how to do that in a bit. And macOS 10 is not able to use floppy disks, because by then floppy disks were already obsolete. So yeah, that's why we are using macOS 9, and that's why I've chose this computer, because it has USB, which is why I wanted you guys to use an older USB thumb drive, preferably this one, because I know that it definitely does work, and also because if you use a newer one, it would probably not detect it, or it wouldn't speak the same language as it does. Because if you don't know, older and newer technology speak a different language. So for example, back then the Romans used to speak Latin, I think that's what it was called. But today people like me speak English, so I wouldn't really be able to understand a Roman, because he'd speak Latin, and he wouldn't understand me because I speak English. So it wouldn't work. So it's good to use things that are older instead of newer. So yeah, basically what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna plug this guy into here, into the side right here, if it will work. And then it's going to start flashing, signaling that it has been connected, and the computer is going to freeze for a bit. And then, now I'm going to show you what to do next. Alright guys, so, once you have the flash drive plugged in, you're going to want to go to your flash drive, whatever it's named. It's going to show up as like a little drive icon. And then you're going to want to, and then at the bottom, you're probably going to find something that looks like this. It's going to be the name of the software that you want to transfer, and it's going to look like a little piece of paper. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to double tap on the piece of paper, and basically what's going to happen is it's either going to uncompress the, or unstuff the thing itself, or it's going to ask you to do this, and you're going to press open. And then what it's going to do, it's going to unzip it, and it may take a while depending on how big it is, but usually for the older Mac games, it literally takes no time at all. And then it's going to come in like a folder like this, and all the stuff's going to be inside the folder. Well, I've already done it, because it sometimes doesn't work after a couple tries, but once you do have this pressed, then something like this will pop up. And then this is still going to be there, but you don't have any use for this anymore, so you can just dispose of this. But now you have this. So what you're going to want to do with this Crystal Quest here, is you're going to want to drag it into your hard drive. Then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to eject what you're going to want to do now is you're going to want to eject your USB device, just in case the stuff gets damaged if you just yank it out, and that's when the next step is going to come in. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be transferring the game from the computer onto a floppy disk, which will eventually go into the older computer. So basically, I bought this really neat little USB floppy disk drive, and I recommend an older one just in case newer ones don't work, but one of the ones that I strongly recommend if you're using an iMac like I am is this one. This one is the Smart Disk VST floppy drive with color kit, and it's actually really cool. So VST has made tons of little devices sort of like this, and this one is probably my favorite. It's basically a little USB floppy drive that plugs into the side of the computer, and it works perfectly fine. It's really small. It's a lot bigger on camera it's a lot bigger in person than it looks on camera. And probably my favorite part is it's the same color scheme and has the same patterns as the computer itself. And what's also really neat is that it comes with a bunch of different little color thingamabobs, so you can always change it if you get a new computer or you've changed the computer. So yeah, I totally recommend this if you're going to be doing the same method that I do. And yeah, so basically what we're going to do now is we're going to come around to the to over here, and we're going to take out the thumb drive because it is no longer needed, and we're going to plug in the USB floppy drive because the thing is that the iMac literally only has 2 USB ports on it, so you can't do it without having to unplug stuff, which is really annoying. But yeah, basically you do have to install some drivers for this. It usually comes with a CD, which I'm not going to show you at the moment, but usually it comes with a CD, and if it doesn't come with a CD, be warned, because you will have to install drivers for it, which you may, ironically, be able to find on Macintosh Garden, who knows. But actually, let me quickly show you the disc just in case. But yeah, so this is what the disc looks like. It's pretty unprofessional if you ask me. It just says VST USB floppy drive installation CD. So yeah, basically this is the disc. You're going to want to install that on your computer, and then this will work. So yeah, now that we have this connected, let's go on to the next step. Alright, so the next step you're going to want to do is you're going to want to insert a blank floppy disk into the computer. So depending on how old your computer is, you're going to want to make sure that it's... I usually recommend an 800K floppy disk, because most of the older Macs use 800K floppy disk formats, but if it's newer than the Macintosh Classic, it will use 1.4 megabyte disks. And I would also like to mention that the software that you're transferring cannot be over one megabyte. it can't be a size that is over 1 megabyte. Otherwise, it will not be able to be be transferred onto the disk and onto the computer, therefore defeating the purpose of putting it on the other computer. You may have to use a different method if you're doing it like that, but I'm not sure what other method there is other than this one. So yeah, basically we're just going to insert this into the disk drive, and then it is just going to come up right there. So yeah, basically what we're going to do now is we're going to go into our hard drive, our fancy little hard drive icon. We're going to get Crystal Quest, and we're going to drag it into the transfer disk. And it may take a bit of a while. Well, no, it usually doesn't, but it may take a couple seconds. And yeah, now it is complete, and we can just eject it. Now, this disk drive actually doesn't eject it by itself. It has a cheap little button that you press, but oh well. But once it disappears on the desktop, you can press the button. I do not recommend pressing the button while it's still on the desktop. You want to wait until it's been ejected. So yeah, now that we have the thing ejected, it is time to put it on the old computer. Alright guys, we are now in the home stretch, and pretty much all we have to do now is insert the floppy disk and hope that it reads it. Now, before you actually put stuff on your disk, what I recommend you doing is putting it in the old computer first and seeing if it reads it. If it does not read it, press initialize and allow it to initialize it at the highest format it can initialize it at. I recommend 1.4 megabyte for anything higher than Macintosh Classic, because that is the highest format it can read. And for the SE and under, I recommend 800K, because that is the highest format an SE can read. And for the 512K or under, I recommend 400K, because that is the highest format it can read, which is the lowest format out of all of them. So basically what you're going to want to do now is you shall hopefully see your transfer disk on the desktop, and hopefully the file is going to be in there. And if it is, which mine is, you're going to want to drag it into the hard drive if it has enough space. Now, I've already done this because the hard drive is pretty low on space, and I already did it in advance just in case it wouldn't work in the middle of the demo. So it's already in this games folder, so we're going to open up the games folder. And this I already did a few days in advance. And yeah, now you should just be able to play your game. So first you need to eject your transfer disk. And now you should be able to play your game. Son of a... Okay, in all honesty, this was working earlier, and this is kind of annoying because I've been planning this video for quite a while, and I guess now I can't actually show it to you, but I am sure that this method 100% works. This hard drive is pretty full, so it probably doesn't. With this computer in particular, I could probably put it on a more modern, a computer with more space, but I do definitely recommend this method as an alternative to expensive little devices that sometimes aren't very reliable as you may think they are. Wait, why did I just drag the games folder into the trash? What am I thinking? Okay, anyway, so it's been a long day, so I guess it's time to do the outro and end this video.
Alright guys, so that'll do it for today's video. Thank you all so much for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want me to do next. And also, I would like to mention that this method does work, and I've done this many times. But usually, I stop at the iMac G3 when I'm doing this process, because there's no point in putting it on the old one. But I can see why some people would want to put it on an older machine, and I can guarantee that this method does work. It's just this time it didn't seem to be working. So yeah, that'll do it for today's video. Thanks for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, comment down below what you want me to do next. If there's something that you want me to review, I can maybe do that. If you want to join my Discord server, link is in the description below. And if you want to donate to my website, link is also in the description below. And also in the description below, man, this is going to be a long description, is the two websites for the is the two websites for the where you can download the games, the Macintosh repo and Macintosh Garden, just in case you can't find it yourself. So yeah, that'll do it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.